2.2, identify how to manage firewall configurations. So this is where they're going to go into the difference between the running configuration and the candidate configuration. Your running configuration is going to be stored in the data plane memory, whereas the candidate configuration is going to be stored in the control plane memory. When you want to install something from the candidate config, you're going to push a commit. I shouldn't say push, you're just going to commit the changes to the running config. That's where any changes from the candidate config get installed into the running configuration. And something to note about committing, if you have an automatic process or an automatic task running, such as a URL update or DNS does a refresh, that's going to take precedence over whatever you have committed. The automatic commits, they seem to, or the automatic tasks, I should say, they seem to take precedence over the manual commits. So in the candidate configuration, there's a couple things here. Everything's stored as an XML file. There's a default snapshot called snapshot.xml, and you can also have custom ones. So it kind of talks about custom name.xml. And those we'll get into a little bit later, but it's worth noting that those are two different options of candidate configurations you can have. And running configuration, again, this is what is actually applying policy to the firewall. This is the list of rules that are actively being applied. This has a concept of configuration version. Configuration version is basically just a timestamp of your config at any point in time, after a commit. If you wanted to look back 3 commits ago, you have that configuration on the firewall. So here we're going to get into what each of these do here. And I'm actually going to start with save down here. So save candidate configuration. This allows you to save any changes you've made, and it saves it to the default snapshot file, snapshot.xml. When you want to revert it, it gives you a place to revert. So you can save something, you can save multiple somethings. If you click Save to Candidate Configuration, it's going to overwrite this file each and every time. Save Named Configuration Snapshot. This allows you to create a custom one. It won't overwrite the default snapshot. You can call it my change to do tonight.xml, and it's a place for you to restore configuration. Revert to last saved configuration. This is going to restore the default snapshot, the snapshot.xml file, into the candidate configuration. So it's not going to make any changes to the running configuration. It's just going to restore that snapshot.xml file. And revert to running configuration. This just takes the running config and overwrites the candidate config with that running config file. Load named configuration snapshot. This allows you to load a few different things. You can load a default, or not a default, I'm sorry. You cannot load the default snapshot in this. You can load a custom snapshot that you created. You can upload the running configuration or configuration that you imported that wasn't on the firewall at some point. Load configuration version. Let's see here. Yeah, load configuration version. So this is where I was talking about those different configs at any point in time. So here you can see that where all these commits were committed. You can load any of these. So if you wanted to load a config, 5 changes ago, this allows you to do that. Export named configuration snapshot. This allows you to basically just export, configuration, whether it's a running config or candidate config. It just lets you export whatever running config you want to do, or candidate config at that. And then export configuration version, same thing. This allows you to export the config version. So this would be the change at any point in time that was done. export device state. Device state's going to hold a number of different things. It's not only going to have the running config, but it's going to have device group and templates if you're using Panorama. If you have certificates installed, you can you can export those. If you have global protect specific settings, you can export those as well. So it's more than just getting the running config, it's getting the entire device state. So you can basically take one firewall, export that device state, and import it on another. And that's what this down here is, the import device state. So you can import that file from another, or you can import that device state from another firewall that you exported up here. Import named configuration snapshot. This is just if you export running config or a candidate config from some other firewall, or maybe even you just generated one. If you're that good, you imported it through here. So that's all the different options in a nutshell. They're tough to kind of wrap your head around. This is about my fourth time trying to shoot this, so yeah, it's a lot to go through. But if you can just kind of remember the difference between the configuration versions, what's what the default snapshot file name is, the difference between named config and just a save config, you should be fine. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.